Hello and thanks for joining us on Agenda 2030, a program designed to give you an insight into the implementation of the Sustainable Development Goals, also known as the SDGs. I am Toyin Nkamiang John.
Agenda 2030. As a successor framework for the Millennium Development Goals, the global community rolled out a bigger, deeper, and more encompassing framework called the Sustainable Development Goals, designed to transform our world, lift the poor out of poverty, as well as ensure inclusive and healthy society. On Agenda 2030, we take you on a media trip to the global destination of the future we want. With everyone on board, we focus on the people and their struggle, the civil society and their agitations, the government and her development effort, the global development agenda, its 17 goals and 169 targets. We bring you all the deliberations, insightful conversations and high-level partnerships on the road to global destination. Agenda 2030, showing on this channel. Agenda 2030, leaving no one behind.
The sixth session of the High-Level Political Forum on Sustainable Development, HLPF 2018, convened under the auspices of the United Nations Economic and Social Council, ECOSOC, held from the 9th to 18th of July 2018. The forum also witnessed a three-day ministerial meeting between the 16th and 18th of July as part of ECOSOC's high-level segment. Held on an annual basis, the high-level segment represents the culmination of ECOSOC's annual cycle of work and convenes a diverse group of high-level representatives from government, the private sector, civil society, and the academia for policy dialogue, review, and recommendations on the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development and other internationally agreed development goals. With a theme from global to local, transformation towards sustainable and resilient societies, the HLPF 2018 reviewed in depth 6 subsectors of the Sustainable Development Goals SDGs, namely SDG 6, Clean Water and Sanitation, SDG 7, Affordable and Clean Energy, SDG 11, Sustainable Cities and Communities, SDG 12, Responsible Consumption and Production, and SDG 15, Life on Land. Goal 17 strengthens the means of implementing and realizes the global partnership for sustainable development. In all, 47 countries were listed to present their voluntary national reviews. On today's episode of Agenda 2030, we will bring to you highlights from the high-level meeting where the Senior Special Assistant to the President on SDGs was a frontline delegate. Welcome back. The 2030 Agenda and the Sustainable Development Goals brought the world together to end poverty and protect the planet, leaving no one behind. So where are we now, and how can we continue to build a partnership to actually achieve these goals? This was the focus when leaders from across the world gathered under the auspices of the High-Level Political Forum at the United Nations headquarters in New York, where they sought to answer the pressing questions. Let's take a look at this IISD reporting service overview on the meeting.
We're gathered here not just to take stock of progress and challenges, but also to ask ourselves whether our actions are keeping pace with our aspirations.
The SDGs is about our people, it's about peace, it's about prosperity, it's about planet and partnership. So let us work together to ensure that there is peace in Nigeria. If there is peace, there will be progress. If there is progress, there will be prosperity. Our country will be a better place for us to do. Then foreign and local investors will be able to invest their money. Nobody wants to invest in a crisis within community or state or country. But if there is peace in Nigeria, more investment will come.
The Sustainable Development Goals call for a world that is prosperous, fair, and environmentally sustainable. It took years to reach that agreement. And so we have to hold on to it. We have to see that this is our way forward.
Since the SDGs were adopted in 2015, it was decided that the HLPF was going to be the annual forum for reviewing implementation of the goals. And each year they take a subset of the goals and they have related panel discussions, and countries produce their voluntary national reviews of implementation of those goals.
I think this is a very exciting event, and I'm very much impressed that not only the member states or the UN agencies, but many different stakeholders are joining to discuss and share the views for the Sustainable Development Goals.
Well, for Pacific Civil Society, who I represent, we've been involved before the Agenda 2030 and SDGs were adopted. It was civil society that pushed to have the agenda ambitious, to leave no one behind.
I mean, we know the figures and facts and the gap in investments, and I think that everyone understands that no one is going to solve this by themselves, not in politics and not the civil society and not the private sector either. So we need to collaborate, we need to co-create to be able to find the solutions.
Sustainable development is an investment. We have to pay for it. We have to pay for it as a society, and that's why we should raise our tax revenues to make these valuable investments. The whole world agreed on the Sustainable Development Goals in September 2015. Amazing. The whole world agreed. This is the only global agreement of its kind that we have. That and the Paris Climate Agreement as a package. We've got to make it work.
Behind those stories are literally tens of millions of people who are working with those goals, trying to make them part of their national debate about development, about choices they need to make. I think here in New York this week, we are seeing the cutting edge of what is being done on the ground.
We take this global conversation with local responsibilities, and we are improving in this examination. It's voluntary, but it's mandatory.
On the positive side, it is already clear that we are seeing evidence of progress in some areas, such as maternal and child mortality, tackling childhood marriage, expanding access to electricity, addressing global unemployment, and cutting the rate of forest loss around the globe.
I don't think we're doing enough. And if anybody says that they're doing enough, then I don't think we're going to move the needle.
One of the biggest opportunity, and maybe major challenge, is how we engage society, the end consumers, in a broader scale to make sure that they come along with the journey with us.
I'm a 19-year-old girl from Guatemala, and I'm here speaking in behalf of all the young people that cannot be here, and I'm ready to continue fighting and implementing the SDGs at local, national, and global level.
Engaging everybody is essential, because when we talk about biodiversity and we talk about nature, we talk about us. We are nature, we are biodiversity, and therefore if we want to put a halt on the dramatic loss that we are seeing for biodiversity right now, we need every single person to understand that without a healthy nature and a healthy planet, we will not exist here. So everybody's action is important.
The UN agenda is about the people, and so the people need to know that they matter. The people in every country, in every village, in every city, every age group, they need to know their voice makes a difference. And they have to take action. They have to understand what this document means and how they can translate it into something they can do.
I go home fulfilled that we have shared with colleagues, we have learned new things, and they would have probably also learned new things from us. So it's a learning, coordinated mechanism, but also moving together forward.
The 8 days of the high-level political forum on sustainable development have been a time to recommit to the transformative vision of the 2030 Agenda and to assess where we are. I believe your discussions along the voluntary national reviews of 46 countries have helped show the resolve to implementing the agenda. Let us leave this forum with a fresh commitment to work together, to share innovative solutions and live up to the agenda we set for ourselves. Let us demonstrate through decisive actions that the transformation demanded by the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development is well and truly underway. Thank you very much for your commitment. With the concrete actions becoming more necessary for the attainment of the goals,
The high-level political forum stands as an evidence that world leaders are committed and are making progress on achieving the Sustainable Development Goals. The forum therefore offered Nigeria another opportunity to restate her commitment, and Princess Adejoke Orilokwe Adefulure, the Senior Special Assistant to the President on SDGs, did just that while presenting the Nigeria statement to the forum. She reassured the United Nations of Nigeria's dedication to the attainment of the goals, while also laying before them progress recorded so far.
We wish to commend the UN Secretary General for the report on the progress toward implementation of the 2030 Agenda and the Sustainable Development Goals. Mr. President, one of the critical challenges facing many urban and rural dwellers in Africa, Nigeria inclusive, is the availability of sustainable basic services, particularly water supply and sanitation services. Therefore, Nigeria is actively working towards transforming the utility into financial viable entities that will rehabilitate urban and rural water supply and sanitation services. It is in this recognition that the federal government of Nigeria has been supporting urban water supply and sanitation sector reform since 2004, and the recently approved National Water Sanitation Hygiene Action Plan, including declaration of state of emergency for the water, sanitation, and hygiene services. For many years, land degradation, growth, and certification presented challenges to sustainable development of the countries in Africa, Sahel to Sahara region. The Sahara Desert is advancing southwards on an alarming rate of approximately 600 meters annually, the effect of which is the shrinking of Lake Chad from about 25,000 square kilometers in 1963. Lake Chad, one of the largest freshwater lakes, has shrunk by 95% to the current size of about 1,300 square kilometers. There have been alarming predictions that the lake may indeed dry up completely in the next 20 years. This has led Nigeria, in collaboration with other 4 member states of Lake Chad Basin Commission, to spearhead the call for the recharge of Lake Chad through the construction of 2,500 kilometers to navigate channels from the river Ubang in the Congo Basin. The planned recharge of Lake Chad Basin will address environmental problems created by the loss of over 95% fresh waters from the lake, leading to massive social and economic loss for millions of families who depend on the water for their survival. Nigeria's effort will require unprecedented level of practical cooperation of member states of the United Nations, and technical collaboration and financial partnership from international partner development institutions and investment. Furthermore, the initiative by the few African countries on sustainability, stability, and security in Africa, which was launched in 2016, aiming at stabilizing the risk area by creating new jobs for the most vulnerable population through large-scale investment in land rehabilitation and sustainable land management, is commendable and worth the support of the international community. Your Excellency, in the 2030 Agenda is to be achieved within the specific period. Effective domestic resources mobilization is indispensable.
One major issue that dominated discourse at the high-level political forum in New York was the care for internally displaced persons in the society. The 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, among other things, reaffirmed that without peace, development is difficult to attain, and there can be no peace without sustainable development. Reaching internally displaced persons is therefore vital to achieving the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. This was in focus at the recently concluded high-level political forum in New York, when stakeholders gathered at a side event hosted by the International Peace Institute, IPI, and the Permanent Mission of Nigeria in partnership with the Permanent Mission of Norway to the United Nations, OCHA, United Development Programme UNDP, and the Special Procedures of the Human Rights Council to brainstorm on the plight of IDPs across the world. In the view of the stakeholders meeting, the needs of internally displaced persons, that is, people who have been forced from their homes but are still within their national borders, is essential to the successful fulfillment of the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals.
The joint IDP profiling service, which many agencies as well support with humanitarian and development partners, have undertaken the Durable Solutions Indicators Library, which is a key tool openly accessible online for governments and stakeholders to analyze displacement situations in their own country. This resource has actually resulted from a multi-year process, including pilot exercises in Sudan, Colombia, Myanmar, and Somalia. It is particularly useful for helping to shape data processes that can enable the inclusion of IDPs in plans to achieve the SDGs. My team has also been very much involved in a significant data initiative in this regard, the Expert Group on Refugees and IDP Statistics, which of course Norway is very much involved in. Mandated by the UN Statistical Commission, this process is developing international recommendation for IDP statistics to improve quality, comparability, and connectivity to national systems. It is my hope, ladies and gentlemen, that by making use of these tools at our disposal, and these are amongst many, states and their partners can develop coordinated responses to internal displacement, successfully implementing the SDGs, and empowering IDPs to regain their self-reliance and livelihoods.
Princess Adejoke Orelokwe Adefulere, the Senior Special Assistant to the President on SDGs, discussed the Nigerian government's initiative to respond to acute humanitarian needs in the northeast of the country, including through the creation of an advisory body, the Presidential Committee on the Northeast Initiative. The body is meant to streamline support to IDPs through holistic efforts backed by robust fundraising. She reminded the audience that Nigeria has 6 states affected by insurgency and highlighted that disaster especially affects the human poor. Orelokwe also stressed the importance of a conflict-sensitive communication strategy in all humanitarian and development efforts across the Northeast.
Ensuring through humanitarian crisis, the Presidential Committee on Northeast Initiative was inaugurated by the President of Nigeria through executive order in 2016 to serve as primary national strategy coordination and advisory body for all humanitarian interventions, transformational and development efforts in that particular region. It will interest you to know that we have 6 states affected by insurgency. It is our belief that the national government will have adopted the right mix of mechanism and invest in the system because disaster mostly affects the urban poor. Since its inception of the committee, they have worked in collaboration with the national government, the 6 state governors in the Northeast, the UNDP and UN system, as well as ministry, department, and agency of government, and the national and sub-national government, the civil society organization, and other development partner, the private sector, and all to coordinate all humanitarian intervention efforts in the northeast of Nigeria. As a result of this committee intervention, with development and financial institutions with the World Bank, Africa Development Bank, as well as Islamic Bank, has rallied around, and they have committed over $760 million towards rebuilding the northeastern part of Nigeria. These funds are earmarked for projects across education, agriculture, healthcare, social cohesion, and infrastructural development. And interestingly, the wife of the president is also mobilizing the non-governmental organization and civil society organization to support her to settle the family down and ensure that they live a normal life. The intervention will continue as much as we have the IDPs, and we are ready to work with all the stakeholders and ensure that we continue and make sure that the issue of social economy inequality, social exclusion, extreme poverty, and high rate of unemployment is a thing of the past, and we will continue to ensure that we take care of the people in IDPs so that we don't leave anyone behind.
The presidential aid also focused on the dilemma for children, particularly in countries like Nigeria, where insurgencies attract them.
We are building also homes for those who that lost their homes, and of course they will have large number of children orphaned by insurgency, which were two projects were initiated to foster the children, family to foster them, and as well as making sure that they have a good education. The government, through the Office of the Vice President, has just concluded phase 1 of the 1,000 young children housed and schooled in a particular place, and the second phase is ongoing for another 1,000 children. It is our belief that all the children orphaned will be properly educated to be a fighter against insurgency in future. For us to do that, we are trying to ensure that the trauma gets out of the children, because not only that we educate them, we counsel them, and that's why the fostering is very important to make them develop within the family. And more people are coming up now in Nigeria to foster the children.
Princess Orilokpe Adefulure also spoke on plans to ensure that the rights of the IDPs to vote in the 2019 general elections is enforced, adding that they are going to be fully involved.
To talk about leaving no one behind in terms of internally displaced people, I think we need to work more with the INEC to ensure also that the people in the IDPs are registered to vote. It is their right to vote. And of course, those people with disability also that outside the camp must be also given opportunity to vote. If we are not going to leave anyone behind, as the slogan of SDG has stipulated, they must be seen and they must be heard. So in order for them to be seen and to be counted, they must participate in the general election.
Participants at the events were unanimous in calling for intensified efforts in addressing the growing challenge in the race to the 2030 deadline.
In addition to the big boilerplate, leave no one behind and so on, but the ambition of the SDGs is to reduce risk, need, and vulnerability. So for the humanitarian community, which has been working for many years to meet the needs, which is to meet the status quo is not enough. You need to reduce the vulnerability of these people. You need to reduce their need. That's at the core of the SDGs. And that's exactly what is necessary to move IDPs, particularly those protracted IDPs, out of their misery.
So the MAPS mission has recommended, they just went there, they have recommended 5 things with direct respect to IDPs. Yeah? The first one, reforms and decision-making processes need to be better coordinated and should include the most vulnerable. The second one, policies that reduce IDP vulnerabilities, minimize discrimination against them, and support local integration needs to be supported. The third one, a delinking of IDP registration from access to pensions and social benefits. The fourth one, an adoption of a housing strategy enabling municipalities to allocate affordable housing to IDPs. And the fifth one, investment in initiatives promoting social cohesion between IDPs and the host community.
And that's our package this week. Before we go, let's quickly remind you that you can always watch this program and other episodes by subscribing to our YouTube channels on youtube.com/Fresh News TV and youtube.com/Agenda 2030 TV. You can always watch the program live on Facebook. Log on to www.facebook.com www.facebook.com/FreshNewsNG and www.facebook.com/Agenda 2030 TV. Follow us on all our social media platforms at Agenda 2030 TV on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Remember to drop your comments and share with your contacts. Do use the hashtag Agenda 2030 and hashtag Agenda 2030 TV. Thank you very much for being part of the program. I am Toyin Nkamiang John. See you again next week.